Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
Welcome, beautiful spirits. As we approach the 4th of July, I've been thinking of what freedom is and how we can find it. I'm in the United States, and every 4th of July we get to celebrate freedom. But I don't know about the rest of the world, and if you take a moment to really think about it and what it means to you. I think it's different for every single person, and yet there are some things we all can agree on. Freedom from fear, freedom from want, which means having enough money not to have to worry about it, and where your next meal is coming from, or where you'll lay your head tonight, and so many more. Do you feel free? And do you know what true freedom really feels like? Today, let's define freedom and ask you what your definition is. Let's look at all the things we want freedom from, those pesky things that aren't working in our life. And then we'll look at different ways you can feel free. That way you'll know which ones are the most important to you. I'll have a guided meditation to connect you to that feeling of freedom. It'll leave you wanting more of that feeling, trust me. And then I'll give you 16 paths to freedom from all different angles, both practical and spiritual angles. So let's start with defining freedom. Merriam-Webster says freedom is the quality or state of being free, which isn't a lot of help, is it? But it goes on to say that freedom is the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action, which is huge and very important in our life. It also says that freedom is liberation from slavery or restraint or from the power of another. It's independence. It's also the quality or state of being exempt or released, usually from something onerous. And then it goes along and says some more choices of what freedom is. Now, Wikipedia says freedom is often associated with liberty and autonomy in the sense of giving oneself their own laws, kind of like when a child grows up and gets out from under, and with having rights and the civil liberties to exercise them without undue interference by the state. And that's especially what we think of during times of elections and the 4th of July in America. It goes on to say, and I love this, that freedom is either having the ability to act or change without constraint, or to possess the power and resources to fulfill one's purposes. You have the choice and the power to decide how to be free. And if you don't, then how do you get it? What does freedom mean to you? For me, it used to only mean I didn't have to worry. I'd have enough money, a home to live in, a decent job, a car, and all the things I need at least for the near future. That was my old information. Now, I'd like to add to that, because it doesn't hurt to have those things as well, that now freedom also means a sense of release from overwhelm, anxiety, frustration, loneliness, pain, disease or illness, and the future, and, okay, yes, from worry too. So again, I'll ask, what does freedom mean to you? Think back to a time when you felt truly free. Have you ever felt like that, even for a second or two? If so, what were you doing? Were you with anyone else? And how did that feel? Do you want to go back there again and feel that feeling? I've had that feeling of freedom a number of times. I think they were related to feeling joy and more emotional freedom rather than physical, because I was never incarcerated or forced to be somewhere against my will, except when I had to go to school or be in a specific job that felt like it was against my will. So let me tell you about a couple of them. First, I've acted, sung, and danced in local theaters for way too many years than what I want to admit to. And once I really, really wanted a part in a musical, and I didn't get it. When I didn't get the part, I went through about 12 hours of upset, which was really unusual for me because I used to be able to roll with the punches, but for some reason this one really made a difference, and I was crying and carrying on. It was really weird and kind of annoying, probably to everybody around me, but even to myself, which is bad. Now, I got a call that evening offering me the part right before the first rehearsal was to begin. And it was the same evening I was told, no, you're not going to get it. I was shocked and elated, to say the least. I mean, I lived with my parents, so it was a very long time ago. And as I ran down the hall, I felt like my feet were flying. It felt freeing. I just dumped all those emotions immediately when I got that call. And I felt emotionally free. I magically felt better, and the 12-hour upset was a thing of the past in that moment. You know, you might identify with this one. I had a particularly difficult boss where I felt belittled and unappreciated, and I usually put my head down for my day job and just work through anything, knowing it will all work out. But when I gave my notice, I felt complete freedom. Now, have you had that happen? Whether you had another job to go to or not, you may have felt not only a feeling of relief, but a freedom as well. If you didn't have a job to go to, worry may have followed at some point, but freedom may have been at least the initial feeling. Oh yes, and lately, I've had an amazing feeling of freedom, because once you retire from your day job and you don't have to get up at 6 a.m. anymore, especially if 6 a.m. is not your thing, and yet you know you'll have enough money at least to get by for a while and you're not worried about it. If you get to stay in bed for someone who likes to stay up until at least 2 a.m. and not wanting to get up before 9 a.m., that is a true feeling of freedom, because I don't have to be anywhere. I choose to be where I want to go. And while it was true that I chose to go to work, I needed the money, and I didn't know that I was free to retire until I really looked into it, because I retired early. Thinking about that, when you get there, imagine what it will feel like. Now let's look at what you do not want in your life, that if you didn't have it, would that give you freedom? The lack of something that bothers you. So what are the areas in your life that worry you? Let's look at a few of those to see what it would feel like and what would have to happen in order to feel that freedom. So if you're worried about financials, maybe you're in debt and you don't know either where the next dollar is coming from, or you just work paycheck to paycheck and have almost no savings, or maybe no savings. So when the car breaks down, or the house needs a new roof, or the refrigerator breaks, what do? Maybe you have a dentist bill suddenly. What do? Just take out the credit card and try and get it all worked out? Or maybe you have no money and don't know where your next meal is coming from. Or maybe next week that you'll be out of money and you know it. Maybe you don't feel freedom with money because you need money for something like your child's education, or buying a home or a car or something. And you may not have to do it, but you really, really want to. So you've worried about it and you mull it over a lot, trying to figure out how it's going to work. If you're worried about finances, you definitely aren't going to feel freedom about it, because it can hit us on our very survival and basic needs level. And that's something that's really tough to take and hard to let go of sometimes. What about your job or career? Do you feel free in that area? Maybe you have a boss that feels like a slave driver who doesn't pay you properly or doesn't appreciate you. Maybe they overlook you for promotions. Now, this one may not happen as often, but maybe it locks you into hours of commute that you don't want. So you have to commute 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day. Now that we're working more from home, maybe that's not happening. But before, that's why gridlock was happening, at least in our area. Couldn't move for some of the time because there were so many people forced to get to a certain place by a certain time. Maybe the job itself is stifling and you hate what you do, or you don't like it at least, or the coworkers are difficult. Or maybe you can't seem to get the job you want to bring you up the career ladder to where you want to be no matter what you do. If any of those things happen, or if you basically just pick the wrong career or the wrong job for you, you definitely aren't going to be feeling freedom when you think about or are doing your job. Let's move over to relationships. Do you feel trapped in a relationship? Now, it doesn't mean that's just a significant other that I'm talking about. You could feel that way about having a parent that you don't get along with, or a child that just acts up all the time and you don't know what to do with them. A friend who is not either cooperating, is asking for too much of your time, or just is never reliable. Or maybe a boss or a coworker, as I've already mentioned. Even a neighbor that you don't get along with for whatever reason can make you feel trapped. Someone that needs health care that you ended up being the caregiver for can make you feel not only trapped, but guilty that you feel that way. Many relationships are toxic, and we don't leave them because the person is a relative or a loved one, and we don't know how or feel we can't, at least without a ton of upheaval, which then leads to guilt. Another swell thing to add to the layers of all the other things that you're feeling, and definitely wouldn't be freedom. Now, I know I felt freedom after my divorce. I also felt guilt since it was my idea. I did, though, feel freedom from the constant worry of saying the wrong thing, having enough money, and a number of other things I won't go into. But if you've been divorced, you might feel worse, but you also might feel better afterwards. Give yourself that gift, because that's one thing. Feeling freedom can be the opposite in a divorce as well. What about your health? There might be emotional issues that have you tied down, like depression or anger or fear or the guilt that I was talking about. All those lower vibrational and lower density types of emotions can really hold you hostage. You might also have a diagnosis that you're living with, that this disease is something that scares you silly. I mean, cancer alone, the word, or Alzheimer's, makes you run screaming into the night unless you're an unusual kind of person. You need time to deal with it. And that fear and that depression that can happen from it, anger, all those things happen in health. You definitely don't feel free if you've had some sort of a diagnosis. If you're living with ongoing pain, I know that sometimes my knee acts up and then I can't even walk up my stairs and definitely can't dance without almost falling on the floor because my knee collapses. What do? You don't necessarily feel freedom. All you can think about and focus on is what's wrong when you have problems with your health. Can't hear, can't see properly. You have the ongoing pain or the illness or whatever it may be. When your body is speaking up, we pay a lot of attention, but we also hang out in the negative. We definitely don't feel free. There are a number of other issues like your home, your free time or lack thereof, and the emotional issues I just barely touched on. Those things can impact your freedom and how much you have as well. And now I want to talk about what makes you feel free. Maybe getting money makes you feel free. Maybe you had an influx of cash or assets, a bonus from your job, or an inheritance, or maybe you were lucky and you won something, maybe the lottery or something else. And so when you get that, you probably have a momentary sense of freedom from worry if you had a big lack in the money department. It may not last, especially if you don't know how to deal with money, but you have that feeling of elation and freedom, at least for a short time. Maybe you feel free in nature. Maybe being out in nature gives you a sense of peace and freedom you don't get anywhere else. A beach, a waterfall, a field of flowers, well, if you don't have hay fever, a grove of trees, my favorite, or towering mountains might all make you feel that way. If you do, realize what it is that gives you that sense of freedom. Maybe it's love. Maybe love of a child or of a significant other. You might have moments of a deep feeling of love, or maybe longer term, but usually they're moments before you get annoyed and then you have moments again. Does that make you feel free? At least for those moments that you have that love. Maybe sharing your love with another being through volunteering brings you a sense of love, fulfillment, and peace. Did it also bring you a feeling of freedom? Some people like to volunteer for senior citizens to help them maybe in a senior assisted living area, or maybe they take their dog there, or they deal with a kindergarten class and they like to volunteer at their child's school. Whatever it may be, does sharing that feeling really make you feel free or just another feeling? So look into that. What about joy? Maybe the joy of being with your children or playing with a puppy gives you a sense of freedom too. Freedom from worry, at least. Freedom from fear while you're playing gives you a sense of elation and joy and fun. All those things that have to do with freedom. And what about peace? When you meditate or any other time you get a deep feeling of peace, you might also feel freedom. There's one more I want to talk about, and that's connection. Because maybe either meditation or however you connect to your highest source can definitely give you a sense of freedom, peace, joy, love, all those different things. I went to a very deep, intensive class, and it was on integrity. And at the end, I had a feeling of peace and a connection to all that is, basically. I literally had no thoughts in my head for at least an hour. And if you have swirling thoughts of every hour of the day that are like millions of thoughts bouncing around in your head like some of us do, that is huge and a huge relief as well. The feeling of connection brought me not only peace, but joy and a feeling of that freedom, none of which I had before that time, not that depth, because it lasted quite some time. So far, we've looked at the definition of freedom, what you might need freedom from, and what brings you the feeling of freedom. Remember that feeling, whatever it was that gave you that feeling of freedom, because now we're going to head into that meditation so you can feel that feeling of freedom in case you haven't been there before and you need to know what I'm talking about. So if you can get comfortable now, and if not, just listen and come back later and do it again on your own, because this one I think you will really enjoy. So let's get comfortable. And then I want you to go through each part of your body and tighten and release it so that you can release any anxiety or tightness that's roaming through your body. So let's start with your whole head, including your neck, because it's hard to tighten up your head, but scrunch everything up that you can. So tighten, 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 and then release. And then tighten your shoulders and your upper back and tighten, 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 and release. And with every release, allow any tension to just let it go. And now I want you to tighten your entire arms all the way from the top of your shoulders all the way down to the tips of your fingers, and tighten, 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 and release. Now I want you to tighten your upper chest. So tighten, 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 and breathe and release. And then down in your abdomen, tighten, 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 and release. And then your gluteus maximus and everything surrounding that, tighten, 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 and release. And then your thighs, tighten, 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 and release. And from your knees all the way down to your toes, tighten, 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 and release. And feel that peace and that relaxation just flowing through you now. And now I want you to breathe in peace. Take a deep breath and breathe in peace. And when you're ready to let go, breathe out worry. On the next breath, breathe in joy. And breathe out anger. And on the last breath that we're going to be paying attention to, breathe in love. And breathe out fear. And now I want you to flood your entire body with a golden healing light. Feel it going from the very tippy top of your head, from your crown chakra, all the way down through every bit of your body. That golden light flowing through you and releasing anything that feels dark or painful or worrisome. Allow it all to just flow away. Feel your body getting lighter and any remaining worries, fears, anger, or other lower density feelings just falling away. Allow wings to sprout. Yes, indeed, wings. What do they look like? Are they bird wings? Angel wings? What color are they? How big are they? How do they attach to your body? Maybe they don't. Maybe you just put your arms through some sort of holder and they're a separate attachment. Or maybe they sprout from your back or from your shoulders. I want your wings to activate now and bring you up higher and higher as they flap slowly and start to bring you up and up and up. And all of a sudden, you start flying. You feel the release, and you fly through rainbow, through colors, through lights, just flying, soaring, releasing any remaining worry or concern or anger or fear. They're not part of what you're doing now. You're feeling safe. You're feeling free and filled with joy. Feel it in your entire being as you just dip and soar and fly higher and higher. Lock this wonderful freedom feeling into your being, knowing that you can have this anytime you want it. And as you lock that feeling in, allow yourself to lightly float back down. And then if you're not in your body, to come all the way back into your body. Knowing what that feeling was and locking it in and knowing that you can have it again. That joy of flying and that sense of freedom. Now become aware of your breath as you settle back into your body. And breathe and ground your breath right back in, filling the tips of your fingers all the way down to your toes, so that you are indeed 100% back in your body. And 1, 2, 3, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Want to get that subconscious mind awake as well, rather than staying partially open. So how do you feel? Can you remember the feelings you had and what they felt like? Take a minute to really lock it in and remember that feeling of flying, that feeling of freedom that you had from being grounded, from your worries and concerns, just free and safe at the same time. Now, what will it take to have that feeling of freedom more often? Maybe you don't know. So if not, let me give you 16 different paths that you can take to make you feel more freedom in your life. And let's start with the boots on the ground ones, and then move into the more spiritual choices. So you can start right away with having the locked in ABC type of 3D kind of choices. So let's start with those. First, you can turn to others. Others that have been through whatever's holding you back from feeling freedom, a friend, a relative, or maybe a mentor. So you can talk out whatever isn't working and how to get back on track. You can go to a professional if that's what's bothering you and holding you back from freedom is something you need to work out. Whether it's a rabbi, a minister, a therapist, or a life coach, or a different professional, they'll listen. And they'll give you a fairly unbiased viewpoint that might help you move forward. Some mostly just listen and ask questions, and others will give their opinion if you ask. Sometimes we come up with our own answers, even better than what someone else would say. But sometimes when you ask a friend, or even a minister, and they actually answer you, what do you think? They might come up with something you go, oh, wow, I'd never do that. But at least you know what you wouldn't do. And that's okay too. Again, on a practical vein, make a list of what you need to change to feel freedom in certain areas of your life. Can you start with something small maybe and then get bigger? Maybe for a job, you might need to ask for a raise or a promotion. Maybe for a different job assignment. Maybe to work from home more often or change your hours. Whatever would give you more freedom. For a friend or a loved one, you might need to learn to set boundaries so you can have more freedom in that and stay in the friendship. Or stay with the loved ones. If you feel pushed into a corner over a specific thing, like the person calls and talks for 3 hours at a time complaining about their life, or even if it's good things and you have things you need to do, which I was the one that was calling, I admit it. I mean, they can't always talk when you're calling them, and you can't assume that they're going to be available. And that's coming from someone who's the caller and not the callee. So if you're the person that's taking the calls, you might have to say, look, I really want to talk to you, but can we maybe text first to see what's a good time if you need to talk for a long amount of time? Because I have kids or I have things I have to get done. I can't always drop everything to answer you, and you might not even answer the phone when they call sometimes because you know it'll be 2 or 3 hours. That might be the way you do it if you don't want to confront them. It depends on who the person is. You need to know what works for you, because if someone makes you feel locked in, uncomfortable, you'll never have that feeling of freedom with that friend. What boundaries would make you feel freer? Now, if you need more freedom in the finance section of your life, what can you do? If you have money, you might want to hire a bookkeeper if you're overwhelmed with keeping track for taxes, or you forget to pay your bills, or you're just not good with money. You might be able to be good at getting it, and maybe even keeping it, but maybe you don't do anything with it. You don't know how to pay your bills because money just seems to flow to you. Other people would be very happy to have that problem, but if you have a lack of freedom from it because you worry about it, then you need to do something. And if you don't have enough money, which seems to be more the norm, and you need freedom from worry, you might want to ask your boss for that promotion or that raise if you think it's time and you deserve it, or even a bonus. You can also take a second job, although it won't necessarily give you a feeling of freedom, but you can look into other options of careers and jobs that might be out there. And another option is to cut back on expenses if you want to feel freer in the money category. That might feel strange, but a lot of people have expenses, and if you look at what you spend money on, you might go, wow, okay, I didn't realize I have about $500 a month. All these things I don't really need to buy. So look at, if you only use your card, it's easier to tell what you're purchasing because you can look back and see what they are. And if it says Amazon about 20 times in a row, go onto the Amazon website and see what you're buying. Because it might be you need everything. Or it might be that half the stuff is just for fun, or, oh, I ran out, but I don't really need it. Like ice cream, which I just went out and bought because I wanted it. And I thought, I don't care. It's only $5. I'm going to buy it. So sometimes you want certain things, and sometimes you don't really need them. So you have to decide which category does this fit in if that's something you want to do. Because cutting back on your expenses can help the finances of your life, and then maybe that will help you feel freer in that particular category. Another thing you can do is take the time to do something for yourself. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even a whole hour. Read, meditate, take a bubble bath, go for a walk. Do something just for you. If you want, you can take your dog for a walk or a run. It's also good for your dog, but it's really for you too. That might feel really good. Whatever makes you feel good. Stop doing what you have to do just for a few moments and do something for you that you can enjoy and have that freedom of, I'm not going to think about that right now. I'll do it later. But right now, I need that 5 or 10 minutes. And if you need to, because you get off track and then you spend 2 or 3 hours doing something, set an alarm, knowing that when I'm done with the alarm, I have to go back to what I was doing. But this is my moment of time and my break from whatever was going on. Another thing you can do if you have someone who bothers you in your life is write them a letter on your computer, or by hand if you want. Tell them everything you need freedom from them for. Whether it's their attitude because they're always negative, or your husband or spouse or whoever who won't take out the trash. Whatever it is, get it all out, all your problems. I don't like you because, or I hate you when you do this, or whatever it is, write it all out. Type it all out. And then print it out if you have put on your computer and burn it safely. Make sure it's safely. If you burn the letter, it has so much more impact on your psyche than just deleting it from your computer. Although, if the person has access to your computer, you should delete it too, because you don't want them reading something that they weren't supposed to read. But if you handwrite it out and you burn it in your sink, in a little container or something, just make sure it's safe, because this is something that can help you. It can really help you let go of what's holding you on, because the person's the person no matter what happens. But if it doesn't bother you anymore, then you have that sense of freedom. You don't have to change the other person. You just have to change the way you're feeling about the other person and your opinion about what's going on. You can also go outside and hang out in nature. Whether it's that short walk I mentioned, a hammock in the backyard, maybe backpacking or rock climbing. If being in nature brings you peace, it can also bring a feeling of freedom as well. Of course, if you don't like bugs, just saying. And believe it or not, if you declutter your house, especially if it's got too much stuff in it, whether it's cluttered on top of clutter on top of clutter and it's everywhere in your house because you just keep everything, or whether you have things that look pretty good when somebody comes over, but if you open the closet door, everything falls on you, it doesn't matter. It's still too much clutter. And you just may feel like you have too much stuff because you have a bigger house, but maybe other people coming in wouldn't think that you did. I had my own business for a time called Organization Revolution with a partner. And I saw that time and time again, that people just felt so much better when they decluttered and organized. Now, I just did an episode called Declutter Me that you can listen to if you want to try that and need a little more information on how to make your job easier. I know that it can be overwhelming. I've dealt with people that it was. I also know that once you get things where you want them, just for you, and you know what you want, where you want it, and you get rid of so much stuff that you don't need, it really is a freeing experience. And it feels really good. Every time you look at the area that you decluttered, you go, wow, I better keep it this way. I better not buy a whole lot more to stick in this area because this feels good. And if it's clothes, maybe you decide, okay, every time I buy something, I'm getting rid of something, or I can't buy it. I have 20 pairs of shoes or 50 pairs of shoes. I can only buy one pair if I get rid of one pair. And that may be easier said than done, or it could be easy if you have old shoes that you go, okay, these are falling apart, or these don't fit quite anymore. They pinch, and they always did pinch, and maybe I should get rid of them. So there's a lot of tips on that episode if you want to work on that. The next one is really fun. If you can find the time and the money, go on a vacation. Something that makes you feel great and free. If you hate cooking and you don't want to do it, go on a cruise where you don't have to cook and you don't have to pack and unpack all the time, because you just go once and you stay there and the ship takes you wherever you're supposed to go, and then you go out to eat all the time. There's buffet, there's food everywhere. You don't have to deal with any of that, especially if you have kids and you're tired of cooking or you just don't like it. Now, if you love nature and you don't have much money, or you have money but you'd rather go camping, great. Especially if someone else cooks when you're going there, if that's something that you don't like to do. Maybe the spouse is the one that cooks when you go on a camping trip. Now I want to talk about more spiritual choices. Things that are not just, let's do it and get it done right this minute. Of course, there's meditation, which we did today. You can listen again and again if you need to simply sprout your own wings, leaving behind worry and anxiety. And you can quiet your mind and allow in the good that way. You can also lift depression and worry, overwhelm, and other emotional issues by meditating. They've proven that with science. When those release, you definitely feel more freedom. Now, another spiritual tool you can use are I am affirmations. They work on your subconscious just like a guided meditation would, or guided visualization. They are specifically I am in the present tense, this way or that way. You can hear a lot of those in the Joy Corner on my YouTube channel under my name. So just look those up and see if those can help you if you want to try using the Joy Corner. Because I even have one that probably says I am free or something. There are so many in there. There's at least 2 or 3 years worth of the Joy Corners. Go in there and see if one of those works for you. And you can connect and ask for anything that's worrying you to be released and to resolve towards your highest good. And that can be done with a formal prayer, but it doesn't have to be. You can just sort of be chatting along in the car going, hey, God. You don't have to necessarily go into a big om, which is more meditation, but you close your eyes and beg God for something in a prayer. You can just be chatting while you're walking or something, and you don't have to do a formal type of prayer if you don't want. But connection can really bring you freedom. And again, in the spiritual vein, find others of like minds that you can mastermind with to find answers to what's holding you back. Because if you want to feel freedom, you might know what you need to change a relationship or a job, but you don't know how to do it. And that can be even a better way than just talking to friends who might, I hate to say poo-poo you, but they might say, and then they might have some kind of a negative response. If you go to a group that is there to support you, you won't have as much of a negative response from it. And it can be a real relief to have others around you to help you work on things so that then you can feel more freedom. And lastly, you can have a Marconics energy session or other type of energy session. I know Marconics raises up your vibration high enough to let go of a lot of the density and lower vibrational emotions that hold you back from enjoying that feeling of freedom. I've been doing that since 2018, and I have to tell you, it's huge. It really makes me fly on numerous occasions when I allow it to. There's always day-to-day stuff that gets in your way, but there are 16 ways that I've just given you that you can find freedom, that you can look into and see if any of them resonate with you. And then try a couple, or 3 or 4, and see which ones can help you to find that freedom that you deserve. Looking back, I asked first, what does freedom mean to you? And I gave you a definition of the world's idea of freedom. Then we looked at what you want freedom from and what makes you feel free. What was the negative that you were trying to escape to feel free? What was holding you back? And what makes you feel free now? And then we did a meditation to actually feel what freedom feels like. So in case you hadn't done it before, I wanted you to have that opportunity. And lastly, I gave you some different paths to finding freedom, 16 to count, depending on what isn't working and what would make you soar. Finding a sense of freedom may require a little bit of work, especially if our fears and worries get in our way. But even certain priorities can seem to stop us from taking the time to find a little freedom. You deserve to enjoy each area of your life, and feeling a sense of freedom makes your life that much lighter and more on track. Thank you for joining me here today. If you'd like to know more about spiritual or life or business coaching with me or Marconics multidimensional energy, please check out my website at www.connecttojoy.com and follow me on Instagram, also at connecttojoy, just like this podcast. Until next week, be courageous and reach higher and find some sense of freedom in the world. Just take one step at a time on your journey, get the help you need, and get out there and find your joy, because you deserve it.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast. And subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.